Good evening out there. Welcome to, well, it was Kingdom Lum Small Town, but it's now Roy Hambrick Small Town Underground. So, a little bit of backstory on that, real quick. Yes, I did change to my normal name because the original plan for Facebook has just been thwarted every single way since they keep messing with me. So, we're going to try to verify the channel so that I get some additional security. But this is going out, of course, on YouTube, Rumble, and Facebook. And I'll be keeping tabs to see if Facebook keeps messing with it. So I did some things on my end to hopefully ensure that it's not going to happen. So welcome this Tuesday afternoon. I'm also having issues sharing to groups. I've got about 10 groups shared, so you can help me by sharing this out as you come in. We will be looking at comments here in a little while. And as you can see, sitting next to me live in studio, this is the one and the only Garland Favorito. So welcome to the show, Garland.
Well, it's great to be with you. I mean, we've been talking about doing this for some time, and
yes,
and it's much better to do it in studio.
I like it.
This is quite a cool setup.
Well, thank you, man. I have been thinking about this moment for a very long time, and just a little backstory because we've bumped into each other several times around the state, and the first time I ever met you, they told me Garland Favorito, and it's an interesting name. You know, you can pick that name out. You know, there's not a whole lot of Garland Favorito. So they told me about you, and it was actually in the county next over in Chattooga County, and it was a great event that day. I think it was a VFW, and never seen you, never heard you, and I was set up in a little booth in the back and helping the organizer. Me and her were very close, and man, when you blew me away. Whenever I saw your presentation, I was like, holy moly. And of course she was like, I told you so. But that's when I started really seeing like the work that you've done and the whole election integrity. And that's kind of what I wanted to focus on, because if you're out there listening, Garland is going to be at the Walker GOP this evening at 7 o'clock giving a presentation. So if you guys want to come, we've been blasting it out everywhere. Feel free to come up and watch it. I am going to be filming it, and it may be live, and we're going to put it out on YouTube and Rumble and just keep spreading the word. But before we jump into anything real quick, I just want to show you guys the flyer here, the big event. This is the latest flyer that we've been pushing around. Saturday, September 7th, down at Lucretia Hughes' house, which the flyer didn't transfer over very well, but it's out there. We have an event page. I think tomorrow night, myself and Lucretia and Derek Grayson and maybe Antonio Jones are all going to be doing a live stream together in the event page and really talk about what we're doing. It's a huge fellowship event. Where you just come out, have a great day. We've got music, we've got speakers, we've got activities, we have booths set up where you can support people, and you might even be able to see Garland Favorito there. So this is big, and it's free, and if you want to donate, there's a little QR code on the flyer, and I cannot wait. We're going to be blasting this out. It is going to be huge, and Judge Joe Brown is going to be with us. He's going to be hanging out, speaking. It's going to be amazing. I mean, like, if y'all ever told me I would be meeting Judge Joe Brown, I'd be like, what? So I'm looking real forward to that. So I wanted to plug that. And so basically, Mr. Favorito. So kind of what I told you earlier, I wanted to first start, you know, I watch a lot of your stuff, okay? No doubt. And I re-edit it and push it out. And
thank you.
It's always, we're always kind of in the reactionary stage from what's just happened, what's just been going on, right? And we've had a busy year.
Wow.
And so I kind of thought we'd slow down for this interview. And I wanted people up here in North Georgia to get a better feel for, like, you've been in this a long time, right?
20 years, over 20 years.
So can you kind of start from the beginning about how you got involved and where you saw, because you've devoted 20 years of your life to this, and maybe we can be an inspiration for others.
Great. Well, thanks, Roy. Yeah, it's an interesting story because I got in, my first indoctrination into the fact that there could be a problem was when I went to a conference, a voting system conference. It was in Cincinnati, Ohio in the year 2000. It was the summer of 2000, And nobody really thought about how they voted then. Nobody really cared. And they said, that look out, there's all this new unverifiable voting systems coming. So come to the conference and we'll tell you all about them. So I'm an IT guy, so my thought is, I don't really believe this, but I think I'm just going to go, and I can disprove it because I got 30 years in IT. So I go to the conference, and they talk a little bit about history, about the lever machines and how unverifiable they are. And then they said, you got to be careful because in 2000 we're going to start these new unverifiable voting systems. It's all going to electronic.
Right.
So I said, okay, I should know about that. And I got there, and I realized, I said, they're absolutely completely right. You could flip the votes, and no one would know. And there's no procedures that I'm used to in the IT world, audit procedures and so on, that would detect a hack, a cybersecurity hack. So I went back, and I didn't think anything more about it. We came back to Georgia, and it was still summer of 2000, and we just went on about my business. And then all of a sudden, in 2000, we had the hanging Chad incident.
That's right.
Down
in Florida,
in
right?
Florida, right? Where,
Yes.
And here's the thing about that. At least Florida had actual paper ballots that they could go back to and determine who won.
Right.
Well, only the next year, Secretary of State Kathy Cox at that time decided she wanted to put in this new unverifiable electronic voting systems. So I, take a look at that, and I said, all these systems, maybe with the exception of one or two, are worthless. They're paperless systems. You got no audit trail. The voter can't verify the ballot because there is none. The elections officials can't audit it. You can't recount a race because all it does is reprint the previous unverifiable results. And there's no transparency because there's no ballot. Everything just goes poof and it goes away. It's a paperless system.
Wow.
And I'm saying, this is ridiculous. Nobody would buy this. Well, boy, was I wrong. I didn't realize that this is the government. And Kathy Cox decided to spend $54 million on this system. But here's the kicker. The kicker is that the legislature already had a law that outlawed unverifiable voting systems. So to change that, they had to remove the legal requirement that this voting system has to have an independent audit trail of each vote cast. That was the protection for the voters.
Okay.
And they put that in there while they were evaluating all the systems. And then when they realized that they were going to buy a system that didn't have that capability, which is needed, they pulled that out. The legislature
They just pulled it out.
The legislature legalized unverifiable voting
Man.
in 2000, and I guess that was 2002.
It was right there, yeah.
2002.
Okay.
Then, so they bought the system, they put it in, installed the whole thing in 6 months. Went from a paperless system to an electronic system in 6 months. Now they're saying they can't even go to the bathroom in 6 months. But they are just. It was a disaster. There was a couple of major upsets that favored the Republicans in the U.S. Senate race and the gubernatorial race, and also in a state Senate race.
Okay.
In Athens County that happened to involve Brian Kemp. That was when he first won his state Senate seat was off this unverifiable voting system. That big upset, all those were upsets. The Democrats were enraged. And we started Voter GA a little bit after that. And most of our core supporters were Democrats for a long time. And of course we had some libertarians, and we had a few grassroots Republicans that felt that they were getting cheated by the establishment. And that was the way it worked for a long time. So that's how we got established. We filed Voter GA formally in 2006 to bring a lawsuit to ban the original voting system. And that lawsuit was shut down by the Georgia Supreme Court. They dismissed it.
Wow.
And because I had written in 2002, I said, I think these systems are unconstitutional because they're unverifiable and not auditable. I wrote that to the evaluator and the Assistant Secretary of State, who at that time was Michael Barnes.
Okay.
And under oath, they authenticated that I had written them that information, and they ignored it. But then in 2019, Roy, you might remember the Curley v. Ravensburger case.
Yes.
That was when the judge said, yeah, you know what? These are constitutional deficiencies. You can't use them anymore for federal elections. And then she proved that I was right 17 years earlier.
Wow.
So that was, I hate to say I got you, I told you so, but because it didn't do me any, I didn't have a good feeling about saying that, but that's kind of the backstory on how we got to where we are. And then, of course, 2000, since 2006, Voter GA has been really leading the election integrity movement.
Yes.
And it's a nonpartisan movement because it's nonpartisan.
Yes.
Issue.
And I want to add to that. So I was just telling you before the show, because a lot of my people know, I spent most of the time just identifying libertarian. I've always been a conservative person, but I just joined the Republican Party, trying to strengthen it. When I first met you, I thought this was some big conservative push that was going on, directly related to the 2016, 2020 election, And then when I started finding out about you and realizing this was nonpartisan, this supersedes politics. This is something that was started way back in the day. And it's kind of fascinating to me, and I kind of want to get your take on it because, like you said, you started this with Democrats, and it's now kind of flipped to Republicans. Where are the Democrats at? I mean, they've just given up. I mean, I always said Stacey Abrams might have had a little bit of validity to some of her claims, not her exact claims, right? But I mean, the fact that they've been screaming this for a long time, and now, the tables are turned politically, and everybody's just giving up.
Yeah. There were a couple more suspicious races. The Handel and Ossoff race in the 6th District, 2016 or 17. And then there was a really bizarre one in the 2018, but it actually didn't involve Stacey Abrams. It was the lieutenant governor's race with Sarah Riggs-Amico and Jeff Duncan.
Ah, okay.
And Jeff Duncan's quite a story. So he had won the primary over David Schaefer by less than 1,000 votes with a couple $1 million of dark money that came in. Mm-hmm. And then they went to the general election, and Sarah Riggs-Amico's votes were shorted in these heavily Democrat or minority-based precincts. And so there was this massive undervote, and you typically you have an undervote drop-off from the governor's race to lieutenant governor, attorney general, secretary of state. It drops off about a point. Okay. Well, in this particular race, her drop-off was about 4 or 5 points, and then it went back up for the Attorney General, Secretary of State, and so on down the line. Well, nobody could explain that. And there was an investigation. We did actually a paper on it. It's called The Unresolved Security Risks of Ballot Marking Devices up on the Studies tab. And we found that the voting system, this was the touchscreen, did not display that race randomly in minority or heavily Democrat precincts.
Wow.
So she got shorted, we think about 20,000 votes because of that. Probably was not enough to make the difference, but it was enough to guarantee Jeff Duncan a victory.
Right.
And actually, Jeff Duncan is speaking tomorrow night at the DNC convention, which we find kind of interesting.
Oh well, he's supporting Kamala Harris in this race, and he's not shy about that.
Well, what's interesting about that, Roy, is Duncan was the key guy who shut down all of our improvements 2 years ago.
Really?
Senate Bill 89, I think it was 2 years ago, and he shut that down on sine die. We had some great improvements. We had the ballots be public record. We had chain of custody procedures, several different things. We had the the Senate Majority Leader carrying the bill, the President of the Senate, which was at that time Butch Miller, and that bill passed unanimously, unanimously by with Republicans supporting the House. It goes over to the Senate, sine die. Butch Miller brings it up to pass, and he has floor priority because he's the president, and Jeff Duncan ruled him out of order. It was just incredible.
Wow.
And Jeff was also the guy who said that you didn't need a fiscal note to spend all the $107 million on this voting system to begin with, and the ongoing maintenance expenses of another $10 million. So this guy, I got off on a tangent there.
No, it's fascinating. Please,
this guy's.
You're talking about all of these things that have happened low key, under nobody's watch,
right?
But this been going on for years.
Yes.
And I think this is the awareness we need to make to people. I told you up here in our districts and our neck of the woods here is very ultra, red conservative, and it creates this echo chamber where we kind of feel a little bit like we're not like the rest of the world. Even during COVID and all these things, people need to understand how serious this is in order to understand how important it is not only to go vote, right, in this system, but look at all of these things you're bringing up that have just fallen by the wayside. It's amazing to me.
Every time you turn over another rock, you find more bugs crawling underneath, and we've peeled. Everybody pretty much knows that Brad Raffensperger can't be trusted.
Oh Lord, no.
But now we're seeing more and more evidence that Chris Carr, the Attorney General, cannot be trusted as well. So it's just really it's really disturbing how, and you have to pry these layers off, one layer at a time until you can try to fix the problem.
Right.
And that's what we've been trying to do for the last few years, with a lot of help from the volunteers.
I'm going to tell you, the grassroots movement is unbelievable in the state, right? So
we're so excited about that. I can't even begin to tell you. We have the volunteers come out of the wall.
Yep.
And I don't know how many times somebody calls us up and says, well, my skill is this. What can I do to help you? And we'll say, oh, okay, well, we'll try to, why don't you fit in here? So
absolutely.
It's really encouraging.
I told you, I didn't tell you, but my eyes got opened. Of course, we all got opened. 2016 was a revelation for a lot of us anyway, just because we're learning a lot of stuff now, how the media, this Mockingbird media, is all in conjunction. We went to bed thinking there was really a leak in the ceiling. We thought, I woke up thinking Hillary was going to be president, and then all of a sudden Trump's president. Everybody, so we've known for a while that these electronic systems are able to be somewhat manipulated without going into like words that are going to get me in trouble. But we know there's issues here, and you've known it for far longer. But leading up into 2020 and even 2022, and I find it fascinating because we can't even look at 2022 because we're still stuck in 2020 and Revelations, the rocks get overturned, right?
Yeah, exactly. But by the way, I got to tell you, I predicted that Trump would win. So I actually won a bet with my daughter, and she had to clean the house.
That's
she was
awesome.
so sure that Hillary was going to win. So,
I'm going to tell you, my father and I, he's 81 now, but back a few years he was just a Fox News, and we got into a huge fight one day right across the office here because he said Ted Cruz is going to get it, and I said no. I said Donald Trump's going to win, and I'm like, what are you talking about, Ted Cruz? I said, I like Ted Cruz, Dad. I said, but Donald Trump, he's the punk rocker of this presidency. He is not in this system. But even myself, that night, I'll never forget going to bed when they started shutting everything down and looking at it, and I'm like, he's not going to make it. So even I doubted it. But
on 2016.
Yes, and but you look back and you can kind of see, hindsight. Things were going on then. Things were going on in 2020. Things were going on during the Chads and the Diebold systems, the ESS, When our state legislation, was it after 2020, they passed that legislation when Jeff Mullis was still in. It was, I can't remember, but they were celebrating down at the Capitol. And I went right over here to this printer and I printed this out. And when I read it and every single thing that they were cheering about, I said, I can't believe that our elections were not already in place. It's a huge wake up call to me. That's when I started really paying attention to stuff that you were doing and other people, because they were cheering like this was a victory, and I'm like, this stuff should have already been in place years ago. And you're telling me you just fixed that?
That's right. You know, all the basic procedures would should have been there, and that's what amazed me, that they weren't there. But going back to 2016 for a minute, so I was kind of I thought Ted Cruz, I liked him at that time. Donald Trump, the thing that amazed me about Donald Trump was when they had the debate, and he actually called out the Bushes for 9/11.
Yes.
And I said, whoa.
Yep.
This guy has, and because he's running on the Republican Party, and he just called out at that time was really the leaders of the Republican Party.
100%.
And he just called them out for their involvement or their lack of response in 9/11, whichever you like to say. And I said, this guy is really outside the system.
He's outside the system.
So that was pretty impressive, and I think that might have helped push him over the top back then. So.
Sure. I mean, Donald Trump is that wild card that we look, where are we at here? This is August 20th. They just whisked away Biden last night from the DNC. We don't even have anybody that we officially can say is running the country at this moment. I mean, we're in an upside down world. I would believe this is some sort of Stranger Things parallel universe at this moment, right? I mean, and also in conjunction with the work that you guys have done all month, it's astounding to me at everything that's been proven, everything that's been brought up, every court case, and they are still just backing up and backing up. Now they're trying to put their election meetings on Zoom call. And they keep shutting this down. Have you ever seen anything, or do you know why? I mean, is everybody got a handout in this, or what?
Well, not yet. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you mentioned Joe Biden. I mean, it's like look at all the people that voted for Joe Biden, and they just decide that no, he can't run for president. He was just taken out. That shows you the deep state is really deep. But to your point, we've been blocked every step of the way. To give you a couple of examples that you're already aware of, but so Fulton County hired criminal defense attorneys just to prevent us from looking at the ballots. All we wanted to do was say, okay, was this election legitimate or not in 2020? So they go out and hire criminal defense attorneys to prevent us from looking at the ballots. Right when they knew they were going to lose. And they were able to escape. The judge, who was pretty much on our side, he had been ruling in our favor for 10 months and dragging us out, but he's been ruling in our favor. We get something every time we go to court. Finally, he just suddenly says, well, you don't have any standing. Well, wait a minute.
What?
I mean,
what?
That has to be deep state.
It has to.
Standing is the first thing that happens when in case you decide you have standing or not. And we so we looked at that and said, wait a minute, of course we have standing. So we appealed to the Court of Appeals, and the Court of Appeals, much to our surprise, ruled in favor of the lower court. We said, oh my gosh, this is more corrupt than I thought. And so we had to appeal to the Georgia Supreme Court. And as soon, barely before the ink was dry, on that, the justice who we believe wrote that opinion in the Court of Appeals, which was bogus, Pinson, got appointed to the Supreme Court by Governor Brian Kemp. Okay?
Wow.
Now that sounds like he was rewarded for covering up the problem.
Wow.
So we go to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court says, well, of course, everybody in Georgia has always had standing to sue government agency or official who violates the law, and they made that decision unanimously, Democrats and Republicans, and they did it without a hearing. And of course, Pinson, who was then on the Supreme Court, had to recuse himself because he had made the bogus decision to begin with. and he couldn't weigh in on that. So so
Wow.
basically,
Wow.
they told him he was full of baloney. So I thought that was crazy.
I should hope so. This is a breakdown of law and order in this country.
Yeah, yeah. And the Georgia Supreme Court has come through for us a couple of times. They just had another recent decision that was going to be really, really good for us. But that's, yeah, so I was trying to get on your point is that there's all this hidden stuff going on,
Right.
this hidden layer of corruption that exists that is preventing something simple like having an honest election.
Well, you said it yourself. You said the Supreme Court has come through a couple times. The evidence should come through, right? In the court of law, the evidence should be enough to withstand anything the court could throw at you. And we're living in a time where it's not. We're seeing it unfold daily.
And what we've learned is probably the biggest thing I've learned is that the judicial system is totally corrupt. That is probably even worse than our election system.
Yes.
When you go into court, it doesn't matter what facts or evidence you have. The judge is going to make a decision, a political decision. And we see this in Fulton County all the time. We saw this in the Tina Peters trial recently in Colorado. We'll go out of state, where the judge, she was accused of a criminal intent, and yet the judge stripped her of all the witnesses and all the evidence that she needed to defend herself. Now, in that situation, the person who's indicted is entitled to their best defense. Even Judge McAfee said this here when the Fonnie Willis trial was. So this judge Barrett, and I don't mind saying it, this has got to be totally corrupt, and he's been compromised because no judge would make that kind of decision. Basically, you have to give leeway to the defendant, particularly when you're charging the defendant with criminal intent, and you're saying no, you can't provide the evidence to prove that you didn't have criminal intent, and she could have easily done that.
Yes.
So I would imagine that she's going to win on appeal, although the Colorado Supreme Court is pretty corrupt itself.
Of course.
Trying to say that the people of Colorado can't have Trump on the ballot. So
that was wild.
That was crazy, because basically what they were trying to do was to convict him of a crime that, before he'd ever been tried.
He'd never even been tried.
In America, you've always been innocent till proven guilty until 2023.
Yep.
And so we're seeing what I think is a Marxist takeover of America, and that's why we fight so hard.
I know. Yes.
So we are just, and it's not just us. I mean, Tamara and I.
Oh yes.
It's just all the volunteers. They they're right there. They've been right there with us.
Yes.
Time after time after time.
Sure.
And and unless they have a family illness or emergency or something, they're with us.
Absolutely.
They keep supporting us time and time again. Whether it's financially or whether it's through their talents,
yes,
or their prayers. We need all that.
I'm telling you, I get cold chills when I think about it. Like, I'm going to shout out like Sam Carnline and Field Cersei. I'm not close to those guys. I watch a lot of their stuff, but it's just stalwarts in this. And last week I was on Antonio Jones's Gwinnett War Room, and Kim Brooks was on there, and we were talking a lot of election integrity. And I made the comment, basically, I think they thought that in good old Georgia that everybody was just going to get mad and they were going to scuff around a little bit in the dirt, but we were all going to eventually forget about it and just move on. And what we're seeing now is this sinking ship in the scurry, because nobody stopped. We're continuing full force, and we've picked up so many good people, and you guys are the leaders. I mean, and we're so blessed of all the work that you're doing.
Well, you mentioned Sam and Field,
yes,
and they are a real blessing to us. And Field and I have worked together for over 20 years.
Wow.
Field used to live in Marietta, so we go way back. And Sam is a great guy. Now I always tease him though. I said, paper please is not the right name, because when you say that, Kemp and them are going to say, we already have paper.
Right.
I said, that's not the wrong thing. What you want to do is you want to say unplug Georgia. We want to unplug the voting system altogether.
Yes.
So
and I agree with
I
that.
tease them. I keep, every once in a while, I call him up and say, no, I was wrong.
No, I
but-
wrestle with it.
But this guy, Sam, every time we have something up here in North Georgia, he's here. So he's driving, and he's got that big truck.
He does.
He drives around with paper please on it, and he is so dedicated.
He is.
I love the guy.
He
But
was,
I do wish he put unplug Georgia on the.
We'll have to talk to him about that too. He was the one that the famous fish fry videos that went around.
Yeah,
That's
we
where
were
I
there.
first found out about him. And I was blown away, and I was sharing those clips out because it was just like, whoa, you got the state trooper here saying you couldn't come in with the shirt on, and could think about that moment to now what we know. It's mind blowing. I go back to the fact that I'm watching these things unfold. I'm watching the SCB and how they vote, and how Raffensperger comes out and says we can't have. He said that they could not count ballots at the precinct level because it would actually make the election less secure, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, reading this, like, what? What did he just say? This is where we're at. I'm like, how can anybody read something like that article and think that, oh, I get it. I can't get it.
Well, right, and he, of course, that's absurd. Every step he has done, he has tried to cover up the any attempt to prove that the count was correct. And another example is when he got Chris Carr to file an amicus brief against us.
Yes.
In the case, and they said no, you can't look at the ballots. That would be a felony. Well, that's ridiculous. If the court orders it, you can look at it. That's what the law says.
Right.
OCJ 21-2500 is very clear on that. So every step of the way, he has been involved in a cover-up. I mean, this guy, it would take a book you could write about all the things he's tried to cover up.
I agree.
In the, what we have, 5 or 6 years he's been here. So it's...
Yeah, a lot of revelations taking place. I call it the Uniparty, Garland. It looks like the Uniparty. It looks like that outside entities are just running. I look at it like a paper delivery service. Somebody is coming down with a paper and saying, just do this. And then, where is the leadership in our state? Where are the people that are standing up against this idiocracy that we have to think about every day? Those words in that article enters my head, and I feel like I burn brain cells when I read it. Where are the people? Where are the other Garlands? And why can't we get these people in office, man?
Oh, why can't you get them in office?
Yes.
The answer is the voting machines. Look, I'm, since we're being frank here, there is no way that I could believe that Brad Raffensperger won the May 24, 2022 primary with 51% of the vote.
100%.
We have a challenge on that race that still has not been heard yet. He was polling 18 to 39% up until the day of the election, and then suddenly he rings up 51% of the vote the next day.
I know. I've got pages in there I was printing off after 22. Like, this is insane. Kemp won by 2 million votes. Come on now.
Right. And I asked Mark Roundtree, who was the Landmark Communications polling guy, said, How can that be? You guys, it was your guys' polls, and he says, I don't know. I can't. I have no explanation for it.
No comment.
Well, I do have an explanation for it.
Right.
It's the voting system. It's and show us the ballots from that race, and we're trying to get those ballots from that race. We're trying to get the ballots in 2020, and how much corruption do we have to put up with before they simply show us the ballots and let us know, let us prove if they really won, they won.
Case in point, let's talk a little bit about the SEB, the decision that Jan Johnson overturned the chair. Share that with us and kind of explain exactly what that is. That's about actual paper ballots, right?
That's right. It's about the Fulton County case. She actually had to appeal the chair's ruling twice, I believe, and won both of them, thanks to Janelle and Rick Jeffries.
Yes.
Janelle King. But what the essence of this case is, which they referred to which is a whole other story about referral of the attorney to the Attorney General. But the essence of the case is that Fulton County, this is thanks to Joe Rossi and Kevin Moncla.
Yes.
Fulton County certified up to 58,924 votes for which they have no source justification. Now, what that means is they're missing 17,852 ballot images. They don't have ballot images for vote. How did that happen? Because you have to, if you have a vote, you have to scan the ballot, create the image, then the cast vote record, and then tabulate the cast vote record. You got the results. You can't have a vote without a ballot image. That's one thing. But they had 20,000 in-person votes, 20,713 that they had no tabulator tape for.
Wow.
Well, how do you have these votes when you get 20,000 votes? You got no tabulator tape. And then they had 39. We now know it's 3,900 duplicate scanned and duplicate counted ballots.
Right. That was the chairs, right? Joe Rossi laid them out in the chairs, where they just grabbed them and rescanned them.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that or not at the August the 6th. He did a presentation where he's like, this is what they did. And he had 3 chairs full of ballots. He would just go out and pull out some ballots out of each stack and then put them on the 4th chair, and those were the rescanned ballots. They don't know how, what happened, but they know that's what happened. So go ahead.
Oh, I missed that.
It was good. It was good.
You have to show me that one.
Okay.
I don't know where I was. But so the Secretary of State's office says, well, we don't know if they were double counted. We know they were double scanned. Well, the adjudication and the what we call the audit marks are on the actual ballot images.
Okay.
So you can tell that they were processed through the system. Right. So they know that they were double counted, and they lied. And in addition, there were no extra. There was nothing extra that wasn't counted. So there had to be counted. And so but here's the craziest one. So the craziest one in this whole complaint, this is all in one complaint.
Okay.
This is Joe and Kevin's. 16,000 to 17,000 votes were backfilled after the certification deadline. So December 3rd was the certification deadline, and they said, the Secretary of State called them up and said, hey, it doesn't match. You're 16,000 some votes short. So Rick Barron, the Fulton County Director, sends a email with no words on it to a guy named Ryan Macias, who works for the election group, which was funded by CTCL, Center for Technology Civic Life. This is the Zuckerberg money.
Okay.
Zuckerberg.
Oh, the Georgia Zuckerberg money. Okay.
So Zuckerberg's money, which was routed through the elections group, Ryan Macias, somehow balanced that to make it all add up. Because Zuckerbucks were coming into Georgia, 45 million came in, and they had to do these partisan get out the votes efforts, or they had to do drop boxes, outdoor drop boxes, unsecure, or they could accept resources from technical resources to control the voting system. Yeah, so we want Zuckerberg is in control of our voting system. His money is, anyway, one way or other, which means he is.
Right.
So that was creepy stuff that they found out. But thanks to a lot of sleuth work from Joe and in particularly Kevin, they were able to uncover all that. And even nobody wanted to touch that. So back to your point, Jan had to override the chair because the chair of the state election board was willing to cover that up. That is very disturbing.
Yep.
And the chair seems like a nice guy. We've spent time with him. We've met him. Seems like he's fairly conservative. But, wow, when you're trying to cover, it's obvious that he doesn't want this stuff to come out.
Of course
and
not.
That's incredibly disturbing because he's supposed to be a nonpartisan
Supposed
chair,
to be, right.
And he's doing everything he can to prevent the truth from coming out.
Right.
What kind of guy? How do you do that? And then you go to church the next day.
I don't know.
Get this.
Money, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's wild. Now, I want to ask you one more question. We're going on 42 minutes, and I know you guys got to eat, and we're going to go up to the GOP. So I
I'm
want to.
excited.
I've got comments that we're
Yeah.
going to go through because I don't want to steal everybody. I don't want to steal you from myself. But let me just hypothesize for a second. If Garland Favorito, if you had the magic wand, and you were in control of the elections, what kind of system would you make? If you could make it any way you wanted to be.
It would be a system that uses handmarked paper ballots with publicly recorded hand count.
Right. Open source, right?
Open source. Well, yes.
Sure.
If you had any electronics,
Right.
but preferably don't use any electronics. You don't have
Right.
to worry about open source.
Yes.
But yes, if any electronics involved, of course, should be open source.
That was what I was trying to get at because, of course, hypothetically, absolutely, electronics are bad. I get it. But in this day and age, it's almost impossible. But you think about something as simple as Twitter, right? About how Elon Musk or some of these the technology I'm working with is open source, right? Why do we have to use proprietary software, proprietary systems when it's something as serious as election? Why can we not develop an open source software that nobody can argue with, that anybody can look at? Isn't that?
Yeah, it's because the Secretary of States are in bed with the voting machine vendors.
Yes.
It's a simple
You're
answer.
100% right. The corruption is deep. I hope if any of you legislators are watching out there, you realize that the people are not going to stop. We're never going to shut off from this. We're gonna keep rolling. We cannot have a country in this kind of shape. We cannot. It's disturbing to me. I was almost lost of words, just like you said. Like, how can these people sleep at night, knowing
Yeah.
it's ridiculous.
I don't understand that.
No. So here we go. Real quick, I'm going to pull this up before I go to comments because we looked at this earlier. So, Garland, tell everybody where they can help support Voter Georgia.
Okay, all right. Well, so here's the comment. I'll tell you a couple of things real quick about this, and then we'll tell
Okay.
you. So on the homepage, I got the homepage up here, and this will tell you about what we've done to secure the 2024 election legislatively. It's mostly, we'll eventually update that with the state election board stuff. That's been amazing. So that's one thing you can look at. And then this will talk legislative solutions. A lot of this was implemented. These were our recommendations. So many of them were implemented.
Good.
And then the one thing that I think your listeners will be interested in, of course, there's our Unplugged campaign. We talked about that. But the one thing that I wanted to point out is we have this Safeguard Your Ballot. And here's what, and actually, you know what? You can click on this.
Okay.
And then you'll see, here's the instructions on how to
Oh, wow, okay.
safeguard your ballot. So this gets to the issue of you're going to cast your vote in 2024. We want everyone to cast a vote.
Okay.
But the question is, what's the safest way to do that to have your vote not be manipulated?
Right.
So we've come up with this little three-step process. It's pretty simple because the issue you have is you want to get around the risk. There's a risk of the machine because the machine is unverifiable and it's illegal according to the United States District Court. You don't want to put your ballot in the mail if you do absentee ballot. So
Right.
you want to get around a couple of things. You don't want to subject your vote to any algorithms and things. So here's what we suggest doing is to basically get your absentee ballot right now.
Okay.
August 19th was the first day that you could do it. That was yesterday.
Okay. Okay.
And I was unfortunately in state election board meeting all day, so I didn't get to do it.
Gotcha.
So I can't even follow my own words here. But but only because I'm busy. So get your ballot right now.
Okay.
And we'll show you how to do that. We'll show you here's how you can go get your application. And so make your application right now, and that gives you the instructions. You click on those links, and it'll tell you that.
Okay.
Then you get your ballot. It'll come in the mail really quickly if you do it right now.
Okay.
And then you can review the contest in the comfort of your own home. Take your time, fill out your ballot. But then the third step is don't put it in the mail.
Okay.
Take it to your election office on election day.
Okay.
Now the key thing to remember there is you can't take it to the precinct.
Okay.
You have to take it to the election office.
Right.
Precinct can't accept it. If you can't get to the election office on election day, you could drop it off at the early voting location if they have a drop box. If they have to have a drop box, you can drop it in there on the Friday before.
Okay.
So why do we say do this? There's a couple of
That's
reasons.
interesting.
Here's the reason why we say to do this. First
Okay.
of all, we want to get your ballot early, because that way they check you off as, okay, you've requested a ballot. So nobody is going to try to check you off the voter roll and then cast a ballot for you.
I see. Okay.
So if you do that right away, that protects you from a ballot stuffing operation.
Wow.
Then, if you hold it to election day and turn it into office, that protects you against some bad actor who's got an algorithm and they want to see, they know how you voted, they want to say, okay, we need to cast a vote, a canceling vote for this. And we know this happens because it happened in Arizona. Everybody knew about it, so they all said we're going to vote on election day. And then suddenly all the machines went down in Maricopa.
Yes, I remember that.
And that, the guy who was head of the Maricopa County elections was basically in bed with Katie Hobbs. Actually was working on a campaign, and those machines going down cost Kerry Lake the victory.
That's
So-
correct.
so,
wow, that's a great plan. That's a really good plan.
So that's how we recommend avoiding that.
I like
here
that.
in Georgia. The same.
That is awesome. In fact, we're not only going to we're going to get that out, and I might even do a video on doing it step by step just to help out with this. This
We'd
is
love
awesome.
to do that. I'd love to do that with you.
Okay, great. So you guys, you can visit votergeorgia.org.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And the thing that you had asked me about is how to help. Of course, there's several different ways. If you go, can we go back up to the
Sure.
volunteer tab?
Volunteer.
So this
Here we
is
go.
how to volunteer. You go there and see the very first link there. You can click on that. You can go and you can volunteer. It'll walk you through a little process to do that.
Okay.
There we go. And,
Nice. Become a volunteer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, and the key about this is volunteers don't have to do anything. There's no obligation. But you get to come to our call every
Right.
Saturday morning. You'll get an invitation if you're on the list.
Okay.
And so, and we go over the state election board things. We had Tina Peters on last
Right.
week. Something
Nice.
we've had almost the who's who of everybody around the country has been on our show.
Wow.
At one point in time or another. So that's another thing you can do. And then the last thing that gets back to your original question, when
Yes.
I keep getting off tangent, but is you can also donate.
Support, right?
No, I think you have to go back.
Oh,
See if
okay.
you can go back to
The homepage.
yeah. So then you have a donate tab. All the way
There it is on the top
well,
right.
I should have made the big, but that should be big red.
Right.
But,
Yeah, because
you know,
guess what? We don't. Voter Georgia doesn't get funded by dark money and all this. Voter Georgia gets funded by the people. So remember that.
And that's true. I mean, it's listeners like those who listen to your show.
Yes.
That keep us alive. We get
Trust me, I know.
a ton of donations, mostly small donations, but that keeps us going. And
Yes.
the most important thing, first of all, the donations are tax deductible.
Sure.
We're a legitimate 501c3. But the most important thing to know, I think, is that we're volunteers. So we do not take salaries out of the organization. We're just volunteering our time. Tamara's a
Right.
big donor herself.
Okay.
And not physically big, but she's got.
No,
she's got
I
deep-
see.
she's
Hey,
a deep
she gets
pocket
all the
donor.
credit. She's there. She's supporting the cause. You and her supporting each other. It's a wonderful thing. If I told my wife to go to a Voter Georgia function, she'd look at me sideways. So but one of these days maybe we'll get her there. So
Yeah. Well, as long as you're fighting a good fight, and
She is. She lets me do this without too much hassle. So
That's good. That's good. Well, you're doing God's work.
Well, that is awesome. So
yeah.
I'm going to urge everybody out there, of course, share this video. We need to go to Voter Georgia. Check them out. Donate. You can become you can become a volunteer with them. Okay.
Yeah, and you can get you get an invitation to our
Yep.
call, and you get more information. And
Yes.
what's really important to become informed.
Yes.
And one of the biggest things that we're going to be talking about tonight is all the legislative improvements that we made. And that was because of the volunteers.
That's right.
The volunteers are going to their county election boards, but most importantly, they're going to the legislators and saying,
That's right.
we want changes.
That's right.
And after the legislatures hear this, they really have responded to us this year extremely well. It's kind of like the good cop, bad cop.
Mm-hmm.
You know, after the volunteers are down their throats at their
Yeah.
districts, then they say, okay, what do we need to do?
What do we need to
Garland?
do?
So,
Mm-hmm.
so we get a little bit more action. There's so much more favorable to us. And Roy, the other thing we probably need to point out, a lot of it's leadership change.
Yep.
Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones
Mhm.
has been great for us, of course. We knew
Mhm.
that. But the surprise has been John Burns.
Oh, yeah.
Speaker John Burns has been really, really good for us. He works well with John LaHood. He's been very
Mhm.
helpful to us in the House Government Affairs of getting bills passed. Of
Right.
course, Senator Max Burns has been great.
Okay.
There's a whole bunch of other people, but that was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, I think we get in this. I don't think anybody is. Look, these legislators read us the wrong way. You know, when we went down last January and we were filming all over the place, and one of the guys asked, because they saw these signs, unplug and Georgia's Truth, who do you work for? You know, and they were like, what are you talking about? Like, well, who pays y'all? Who pays y'all to come down here and do this? And we're like, nobody. And I can't even remember the legislator's name, but he had wearing a big cowboy hat. And he said, no, who pays for the signs and all this stuff? And we were like, nobody. Like, I got in my car and drove down here this morning because I was off work and wanted to participate. Like, this is not an army built up of dark money and nonprofit stuff. We're not against government. What we're wanting is truth, transparency, some consistency. Let's get rid of all of this darkness. Let's get rid of all of this, the unethical things and these systems that are costing us everything, and let's get back to some real legislation for the people, right?
And that's so hard for them to understand because lobbyists are
lobbyists.
influencing them
Yeah.
tremendously, if not completely controlling them. And their opinions can get very skewed based on where the money comes from. So they're not used to seeing people who are down there that are not getting paid. And
Yeah,
it's just,
exactly. They're like, wait a minute, you came down here by yourself and you just met. Yes, sir. And you know what? That's why we have these pushes done. That's why they're scrambling, because everybody's just like, yep, I'm gonna get up and go to the SCB meeting, and we're gonna go down there and we're gonna voice our opinion. It's beautiful.
It really is. It's amazing. I don't know that they really understand it.
They don't.
I think they think that it's still. And I think the chairman might think there's, it's a political thing.
Yeah, well,
But we'll have to bring him around
Yeah.
shortly.
we will, and I hope we do. So we're gonna go to comments. And again, votergeorgia.org and Voter Georgia's on Facebook. They're everywhere. On Twitter, there's groups Georgia's for Truth. Man, I'm telling you, if you just get involved, okay? All right, so let's see. We got Terry Bailey. She says, "Hey y'all, hey, thank you for hanging out with us today." Blake Ellsbury, the Chattooga County Commissioner, he's awesome. Hey, it's good to see you, sir. Lisa Adams, she's been down there every SEB meeting. She's she is a fighter. I'm telling you, I'm just glad that she's on my side. So, love Lisa. Georgia Patriot says Duncan is an enemy of the people.
He's proving that.
Yeah, I think Duncan has been outed, right? So,
Yeah.
Georgia Patriot is a great dude too. It says deep red counties like ours is where the system can steal 1,000 votes and nobody notices. How many counties like that add up to enough votes to flip an election?
Excellent point. And that's, you just shave a little bit off that margin. Dr. Shiva has that happened to him up in Massachusetts when he ran for office.
Right.
Just shave the votes a little bit in the heavily red areas.
All right, Georgia Patriot says the 2022 Republican primary results were the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen. Guys, and y'all know they've been sticking with me from the beginning. I was more upset about 2022 than I was about 2020 because we'd already kind of got a foothold, knew there was some shadiness. But when you see the results, I mean, like, it's one thing for Kemp. I held my nose. I'm speaking personally. Held my nose and voted for him. But to see the margins in some of these elections, knowing that most people were voting down ballot was beyond me. And 2022 is incredible.
Well, yeah, and so that race, in regards to Kemp, so Kemp and Purdue were almost in a dead heat. There was
Yes.
about 2 points. They both had it 44%, something like that. And then suddenly the votes came in, and it's like almost 70-30 or something like that.
It went
69 to 30 something. It's like, you got to be kidding me.
Yep. All right. Terry Bailey says, "Unplugged Georgia in huge teal blue colored letters on the black paper. Please, trailer would look great."
Sam, did you hear that, Sam? Okay.
Blake also says, "Unplugged Georgia." Blake's a good fighter over in Chattooga County. Lisa says, "I'll see y'all tonight." Oh, I can't wait. We get to hang out with Lisa tonight.
Good.
And that's right. It was Jason Ridley, the guy in the cowboy hat, saying, "Well, who's paying y'all?" You know, I got it on film. I got it. It's on YouTube. You can see it. It was insane. But we're gonna get off here in just a second. They need to grab something to eat, and then they're headed to Walker County GOP meeting tonight to do a presentation. If you're not able to make it, I will be filming it on the camera, the small 10 underground camera, and we'll get it out there on all social media.
Yeah.
I want to send a special shout out to Jeff Spiva, because Jeff, you are not only an awesome patriot, but you made this happen. And we got it planned perfect where nobody lost anything. And Garland's here, and he's going to enjoy a little bit of Walker County tonight. So my shout out to you, man. It's you guys that just keep me going. As always, you can go. Yes, you can go to givesendgo.com/small10underground. Anything that you donate goes straight back into the show. And tomorrow night we will be doing a live stream in the big event with several of our friends. So you need to make plans now to come to that free event, hang out, and have a good time. And hey, if you're somebody out there like Georgians for Truth who I haven't talked to yet, we want you to come and set up. So we would love to have y'all. I'm going to give you the last word, as I always do, Garland.
Well, I just want to thank Jeff, too. I'm looking forward to being up there tonight. We're going to be talking about the legislative successes of this session. And it means a lot to me to be in Chickamauga. First of all, Northwest Georgia is the prettiest part of Georgia. And but that battlefield, a lot of people died on that battlefield from the invasion of Georgia. And I think I'm going to talk a little bit about that tonight.
That's awesome. Yeah, we go walking up there all the time and took the dog up there. There's all kinds of trails. I stay in that battlefield. But Garland, we're forever in debt, and we're going to support you, and the people of this state are not going to stop no matter what. But thank you so much for what you guys are doing.
Thank you. And I just want to mention, it wouldn't be what we do wouldn't mean anything if it wasn't for what you do to spread the word.
I'm just a dude sitting in here that bought a podcast machine at a yard sale. So,
but you got a great hat.
Well, yes, I do, and I've had this hat for a while, y'all. Y'all know this hat's been sitting back here too. So, all right, guys, we're gonna get off here. Lovely show, wonderful to have you guys up here, and I'll see you tomorrow night.